Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 18 Public Beta 4 or Beta 6 and iOS 18.1 Beta 2 released this week a few days ago, and there's more to talk about since the iOS 18 Beta 6 is out. What's new video? We'll also talk about the overall experience, your experience as well, based off the YouTube community poll where there's over 21,000 votes at the time of this video. Before we talk about the latest features, let's first talk about a couple things from Apple. Apple actually announced this week that driver's licenses and state IDs will soon be available in California. They announced it in the Apple Newsroom website. I'll link it in the description, but soon they'll be adding this to more and more states, it seems, as states are working directly with Apple to add it. Hopefully more countries do this and different states as well, but they have to work directly with Apple to implement this. Apple also this week announced that developers can soon offer in-app NFC transactions using the secure element. They detail how this can work, and it starts with iOS 18.1. So there's a lot of information here where different applications can actually use that NFC and secure entitlement so that you can actually use this and then use it in specific countries. You'll see it's going to be available to Australia, Brazil, Canada, Japan, New Zealand, the UK, and the US. Outside of that, maybe it'll be coming a little bit later. As far as new features, well, the first thing has to do with the phone app. And while we're still waiting for the record feature on iOS 18 and other devices outside the iOS 18.1 beta, hopefully we'll see this on other devices, they have updated the Recents section. Within Recents, they've actually removed the icons on the right side. However, if you use the search option, they come back. And if we're searching for something, we have different sections for calls and voicemails. We can do a one-tap callback, just tap on this here, and it will work. Also, if we scroll down a little bit further into voicemail, we have that icon that's returned. Press on that and you can place a call to your voicemails or anything below it. Within settings and then in general, if you scroll down to where there's background app refresh, you'll see that there's a new icon here. I missed this even though it was right next to autofill in passwords. They've changed both icons for autofill in passwords and background app refresh. So it's just a little bit different on the right with beta 2 and beta 6 or public beta 4. Something else that's changed very slightly, and it's really hard to notice, is the bottom home bar seems to be a little bit lower and slightly thinner, maybe by a pixel or so. I can notice this on certain phones more than others, but it definitely seems to be moved ever so slightly. Also, if we go in and maybe we customize something, so we'll go ahead and go to Edit and then Customize. If we go to the tinted option, I've talked about in previous videos, but not the update videos, how it actually tries to match the wallpaper you're currently on if you're using a tint. So maybe we go back to a different one here, press and hold, then we'll go maybe over to another one where it could be tinted here. We'll go into this wallpaper, slide up, press and hold. Again, go to Customize, go to Tinted, it then tries to match it. But if we switch back to the wallpaper we were just on, so we'll go back to this one, you'll see that it actually keeps the tint that was previously there, making it a little bit easier if you want multiple customizations throughout iOS. Another thing you may have already noticed is they removed the color after it's been tinted out of Safari. So that's a very slight change, but something that's a little bit different. Under our general settings and within keyboards, if we go into keyboards and maybe we add an additional language. I've talked about this a little bit before, but they've changed it slightly here. So maybe we'll just add Spanish Mexico, and then we can add it to the US keyboard. So we can combine the keyboards, and then the first time we go in, we've got a bilingual keyboard. So if we go in here, press and hold. Some people are seeing the first time we tap on this and we switch between keyboards, we actually have the bilingual keyboard option down here at the bottom where you'll see it says English and Spanish. Some people are actually seeing a new splash screen down here as well if you've never set that before. If we go into Maps, something that's from a previous beta, but they've also updated a little bit, is if maybe we search for a store here. This is a nearby Apple store to me. You'll see we have a plus icon where we can add it to favorites or a list that we have in our library, and they've updated this animation. So if we press on the little plus, the animation seems to be a little bit more bouncy and then updated. Now, if you have a phone with Apple Intelligence, on the left is beta 1, on the right is beta 2. If we go into Apple Intelligence and Siri, so we'll go into that, you may have already noticed here where it no longer says listen for, now it says talk and type to Siri. If we go into that, we have a new option here. So not only do we have the options to switch this off or talk to Siri, it now says type to Siri, and press side button for Siri. So these are new options with little toggles here that they've added in iOS 18.1 Beta 2. If we go into X, you'll see Dylan here actually posted that iOS 18.1 Beta 2 finally adds a proper Beats pill icon. So if you're switching between different things, maybe you're playing some music, and then you go to send that to maybe your headphones, they've updated the icon here where it wasn't before. You may have already seen this in iOS 17.6.1, but it wasn't in iOS 18.1, it seems. If we go into messages and maybe you're texting back and forward with someone, you'll see that they actually have the suggestions down here. These seem to be working a lot better this time around, and even give you suggestions after you type as well, where it didn't do that before. When you're using Siri, it seems to be much faster. What's the weather tomorrow? It seems to pop up nice and quick. And if you want to ask it something else, what are the latest movies playing in theaters nearby? And you'll see here it gives us the information very quickly. It also seems to have enhanced speech, maybe when someone's texting you and then you're responding in CarPlay with your voice. It seems to be much more natural. Let me show you what I mean. We're in Apple CarPlay, and if we press and hold, you can see the new Siri animation, and it seems like it works properly on this device, but it may not extend properly on all cars just yet with extended displays. But the overall voice sounds much more natural, so let's try it out. What's the weather tomorrow?
Should be sunny tomorrow. Daytime temperatures will hover around 90 degrees with overnight lows around 70.
Send a message to Aaron Zolo.
What do you want to say to Aaron?
This is a test message using the latest Siri with Apple Intelligence on iOS 18.1 Beta 2.
Sending. This is a test message using the latest series with Apple Intelligence on iOS 18.1 Beta 2.
So
Canceled.
it seems to be much better as far as the overall voice, and it seems like it's improving. Another update they've made has to do with notifications. You'll notice how YouTube Studio actually has a dark mode icon. They've done this with all of the apps now to match dark mode icons that you have set for iOS. So if you're using those icons, they now actually match. One thing they've changed in this update is if we go to the lock screen and then wake it up and pull down, we can no longer get into Spotlight search. So on Beta 1 here on the left, we can do that. On Beta 2 on the right, it doesn't seem to be an option this time around. So maybe they'll bring that back in a future update. If we go into Photos, there's an update here. When you go into Photos and go to create a memory, it actually says include a song, artist, or genre to play from Apple Music. So you can do that just by typing. However, memories don't seem to work for everyone, so let's give it a try. So we're in a memory and we can type cars, playing the song, Life is a Highway. Let's see if it gets that. So it was playing, it locked up. My phone is extremely hot just from doing that, but it did play the song that I asked it to as well. Now with the latest Apple Intelligence update, it seems like it's taking up more storage space. If we go into General and then iPhone Storage, we'll give it just a moment here to load. If we go all the way to the bottom and go into iOS, you'll see that it's taking up less space for me. However, some people were saying it was taking up double the space for them. So maybe it's refined itself over time, but let me know what it's doing for you and what your storage space is like for Apple Intelligence. Maybe I just haven't used it enough to actually show more storage. Another thing I wanted to share has to do with the Feedback app, where Apple has sort of made this a game where you can earn points. I got a notification to maybe respond with feedback for Apple Intelligence. So if we go into Feedback here, within Feedback, you have the option to rate your experience, and you'll notice there's a little dial there. If we tap on this, it says rate your experience, and content such as your emails from the Mail app and messages from Messages app will be displayed to you, along with content generated from them from Apple Intelligence features. This data always remains on your device. We'll tap continue, and then you can rate the overall experience as how accurate it is, and then earn points. This actually was in the previous beta, but popped up for me more recently, and it's sort of like a game. What it actually earns you, I'm not sure, but maybe they'll change that in future updates. Apple this week unsigned iOS 17.6.1 out of nowhere. This is the latest version, so if you've installed this on your main device, it's the latest public version. iOS 17.6.1 for a little bit of time was unable to actually be restored. They actually re-signed that, and now you can restore to it again. However, they recently unsigned iOS 17.6, leading many to believe maybe we'll have another update to fix some issues, maybe in iOS 17.6.2 or 17.7, but typically Apple leaves the next major update for sometime in September. So we don't really know what they're going to do with that, but they just recently unsigned 17.6. Maybe it was a mistake unsigning 17.6.1, but that's since been fixed. Apple this week, of course, this coming week is expected to release new betas. We're expecting on Monday, probably iOS 18 Beta 7 and Public Beta 5. We'll also probably see iOS 18.1 Beta 3. That seems to be on a weekly cycle at this point, and then the last week of August is when we typically see maybe the RC or possibly a Beta 8. We don't really know at this point, as Apple's been very different this year, but we do expect Apple invites to the iPhone event probably in the last week of August. That seems to be what they do every year, and if they do that, that means we'll probably have an event in early September, maybe on the 9th or so, and then maybe we'll have a release of the iPhone 16, 16 Pro, 16 Plus, and 16 Pro Max, maybe on the 20th is what I'm guessing, with a release of iOS 18 probably on the 16th. Some people think it might be on the 9th. We don't know 100%, but we'll have to wait and see what Apple actually decides. One other thing I wanted to mention is Apple actually updated AirPods Pro 2 beta firmware this week, along with the iOS 18 and 18.1 betas. The AirPods Pro 2 with Lightning or USB-C like this one actually get an update to version 7A5266C if you're on the developer beta program. This goes along with the new features in iOS 18. So I just thought I'd mention that. There's no easy way to update them, but the beta update I wouldn't recommend unless you have an extra set of AirPods, as there's no way to roll back if you're having problems. When it comes to overall improvements and resolved issues this week, well, Bluetooth connectivity seems to be improved. Maybe it's because of that beta firmware update, and there seems to be improved cellular connectivity. Wi-Fi has still been a little odd for me. Maybe it's related to my router, but in general, it seems like it's definitely improved this time around. Not overall speed or anything, but I do have 2 bars here where I typically have 1 to 2, and it's even raining out where I typically would have 1. So it seems to be a little bit better this time around. Wi-Fi connectivity, while I have pretty fast Wi-Fi, seems to be a little bit spotty for some reason. And if I use a similar phone in a different area, whether that's an S24 Ultra or something else, I have no problems with Wi-Fi. So it's definitely related to the iPhone. As far as bugs this week, well, some people are still having the standby bug even on 17.6.1. If I bring in this dock here and this phone, the iPhone 15 Plus is on 17.6.1. If I lock it while it's in landscape on a charger, let's see if it goes into it. We'll give it a second here. There we go. And if we press and hold, we should be able to edit. And if we go in and edit, some people still can't go back in after they've edited just once. So if we press and hold again, let's try and go back into that. Again, press and hold, we can edit. For some reason, some people are still not able to do that, but it seems to be fixed for most people. But again, it's still an issue for some. I'll link this doc in the description as well, as many people were curious about it. One of the major bugs this week is with the control center disappearing after your reboot. Some icons are disappearing, things aren't working properly, and some pages are disappearing as well. I haven't actually experienced this myself, but some people are actually seeing this. I've had those Wi-Fi issues I mentioned, but I also have had issues with auto brightness, where it seems to be a little bit buggy. Specifically, if I turn on auto brightness and turn it back off, sometimes it stays at the lowest brightness, and then I have to bring it up manually, and then it's fine after that. This seems to be an issue a lot of people are having, along with low volume in apps. Some people are saying their apps, for some reason, even with the volume all the way up, are just particularly lower than normal, and it's hard to hear them. There's odd scrolling in photos from time to time, or just different apps. In fact, I've had a lot of touch bugs here and there in apps such as Telegram, just scrolling, things just stop and then lock up. I have to close the app and then go back in, and then it works again. For whatever reason, it seems to be locking up for me, even after a reboot. Some people are still having issues with screen time not working properly, or just not reporting accurately according to what they believe they've used. There seems to be a bug in here as well to go along with the hidden and locked apps. If we go into always allowed, you'll see I have Spotify here. That technically shouldn't show, as I want it hidden, and I have that as an example here under hidden in the app library. Unlock, and it shows Spotify. So it's still technically showing in screen time where it probably shouldn't be showing there. When it comes to battery life, iOS 17.6.1 seems to be good for most people after they've used it for a few days. It seems to improve greatly. So if we take a look at that, Thanks to Cameron for sending this in with iOS 17.6.1 on an iPhone 15 Pro Max with 100% battery health. After using about 100% of the battery, he managed to get 10 hours and 38 minutes of screen active time, 8 hours and 22 minutes of screen idle time. So that's pretty great. Thanks to Abhishek for sending this in on iOS 18 Public Beta 4 or Beta 6. They're the same thing. This is on an iPhone 11 Pro Max with 78% battery health. He managed to get 7 hours and 41 minutes of screen on time, 1 hour and 30 minutes of screen off time, using a little over 100%, so probably around 6 to 6.5 hours. Then he needed to charge it. When it comes to my battery life on iOS 18.1, if we go to battery health, you'll see I'm down to 92% with 280 cycles. And if we go over to the last 10 days, today I managed to get 5 hours and 54 minutes of screen active time, 6 hours and 12 minutes of screen idle time, but it was actually charged quite a bit. You can see that here. So if we take a look at previous days, it hasn't been great. 2 hours and 18 minutes of screen active time, 4 hours and 4 minutes of screen idle time, using 75% of my battery. With iOS 18.1 for me, it's not getting me through the day. Unless I charge it during the day or sometime toward the end of the night, it just won't manage to get me through. So it's definitely needing an improvement there. Hopefully we'll see that with the next beta, but again, it is a beta, so I expect that. When it comes to overall performance, well, other than the lockups I mentioned, they all seem to be performing pretty well. When it comes to ProMotion with speed and overall smoothness, they seem nice and fast, and just using different apps and everything in general seem to be nice and fast, with the exception of those lockups. I've had no issues loading different applications, going in and out of things such as podcasts, using podcasts, loading cellular data. Everything seems to be nice and smooth that way. When it comes to the overall heat, well, the iOS 18.1 beta seems to be a little bit warmer than the others for me, so let's take a quick look here. So we'll just take a look at 18 and 18.1 with the latest betas. Fahrenheit will be posted up here, but we have about 36.3 degrees Celsius on 18.1, and with iOS 18, we're at about 30.5 or 31 degrees Celsius. So overall, they're seemingly okay, but definitely better on the iOS 18 betas compared to 18.1, especially if you're not running Apple Intelligence. That makes a huge difference. When it comes to overall benchmarks, well, I ran them on all of them, so let's take a look. From left to right, we have the iPhone 15 Plus, which is on iOS 17.6.1, iOS 18 Public Beta 4 in the middle, with the iPhone 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max with iOS 18.1 Beta 2. You'll see we actually have the highest scores on iOS 18.1 Beta 2, but they're going to be a little bit lower with the iPhone 15 Plus given the different chipset. But this gives you an idea of what to expect from all of them. They're definitely a little down on the iOS 18 betas compared to iOS 17 public releases, but I think they'll continue to creep up as we get closer to the final release. Now, as far as what you had to say with the overall experience, let's take a look at some of your comments. RAM-V5 said, having a bug where my weather widget keeps saying weather unavailable, even though the weather app is working, using 17.6.1. Ashley iPhone 15 Pro Max said, 17.6.1 on my 15 Pro Max, all very stable, just still the standby bug. 18 Public Beta 4 on my 12 Mini runs fairly smoothly as well. Odd bugs and stutters here and there, but generally very stable. Standby works as well. With the Ali's, or hopefully I'm saying that properly, hi Aaron, Public Beta 4 has been great. Battery life is great too. Oddly though, I've had my games crash a couple of times upon opening. Didn't happen with previous betas. This is on an iPhone 14 Pro in South Africa. Dry Print said, greetings Aaron, I'm on iOS 18 Public Beta 4. Battery life has been fine, but my iPhone 14 Pro Max crashes at least 2 to 3 times a day since I've installed it. Really looking forward to iOS 18.1 public beta. Eurotech said, I'm running iOS 18.1 beta 2 on my iPhone 15 Pro Max, and it seems great so far. Battery life has improved from 18.1 beta 1. I have encountered no bugs yet. The Skeptical Trucker said, I'm running iOS 18.1 beta 2 on my 15 Pro Max, and so far this week I have noticed much improved battery life. Smart Replies is working in iMessage, but not working in SMS or RCS. Not sure if they are supposed to at this point yet or not. Also, Smart Replies are not working in the Mail app either. Other than that, it's smooth. And Voss4302 said, I'm very satisfied with the iOS 18 betas so far. So much so that I decided to move my main phone, 14 Pro, to the public beta without any issues. The most recent betas even fixed a shortcuts with Note issue that I had, at least to this point where I can implement a good workaround. I guess Apple does read the feedback you send them. So that's everything with all the latest betas and public releases. Of Of course, I do expect more releases this coming week, maybe even a surprise public release. We don't really know at this time just yet. But let me know if you've found any additional features I haven't mentioned earlier in the video. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.